In the dim corridors of history, whispered on stormy nights and passed down through cryptic manuscripts, there exists a day that bears the weight of an ancient curse. A day that seems to carry misfortune like a shroud. Friday the 13th is no mere numerical happenstance. It is the result of interwoven strands of divine betrayal, trickster chaos, and mortal treachery. The legends speak of a cursed dinner where destiny was sealed by a single, fateful guest. A guest whose presence would forever taint the sacred with the profane. This is the story that travels from the hallowed halls of early Christianity, through the frostbitten feasts of Norse mythology, and into the bloodstained night of medieval Europe. In every era, on every cursed Friday the 13th, those who are unprepared to confront the echoes of the past may find that history becomes all too alive, and the sins of ancient betrayals resurface to claim unsuspecting souls. It was in a modest upper room, suffused by the golden glow of oil lamps and the murmurs of fervent prayer, that 13 figures gathered one fateful evening. The air was thick with an unspoken tension, a mix of reverence and foreboding. Among them sat a man whose teachings had sparked hope and revolution, a man who spoke of redemption and eternal life. Yet even in that moment of intimate communion, treachery lurked in the guise of one of the guests. The tale recounted that on the eve of a momentous event, a dinner hosted by Jesus Christ would serve as both a celebration and a final gathering before the price of betrayal was exacted. The gathering, now immortalized as the Last Supper, carried with it the ominous shadow of the number 13. For with the presence of Judas Iscariot, the infamous betrayer, this number was bound forever to the stain of deceit. In that sacred meal, it was whispered in hushed tones that Judas, arriving as the 13th guest, had sealed not merely his own fate, but had set into motion a chain of events that would mark all subsequent Fridays with betrayal and sorrow. His treachery, steeped in a bitter blend of greed and lost hope, became the archetype for the darkness that would come to be associated with the forbidden number. As the disciples broke bread and shared wine, no one could fathom that the seemingly benign occurrence of a 13th presence was more than an accident of seating arrangements. It was as if fate had conspired with the whims of destiny. Some legends would later say that the bitter taste of the wine that night was mixed with an undercurrent of dark magic, a divine retribution for the betrayal that was to follow. It was not long after that sacred night that traditions began to intertwine the day of the crucifixion, a Friday with the cursed number 13, thereby creating a tapestry of ill omen and fatal coincidence that would haunt the collective consciousness for centuries to come. Far to the cold, windswept expanses of the north, in the mythic halls of Valhalla, another dinner party would forever alter the course of luck and misfortune in the mortal realm. The gods gathered in regal splendor, celebrating their victories and recounting epic sagas of battle and honor. 12 deities, bound by honor and destiny, sat in a great circular hall, a shape that spoke to the unity of the divine. The night was one of revelry, the air charged with the sound of laughter and the clink of mead-filled horns. No one expected that the cosmic tapestry of fate would soon be torn asunder by the arrival of a 13th guest. Loki, the cunning trickster and eternal mischief maker, swept into the hall shrouded in trickery and enigma, eyes glimmering with malicious intent. His unannounced presence, a deliberate affront to the established order, disrupted the balance of the feast. The gods' mirth quickly turned to alarm, as they sensed that the arrival of this unexpected guest heralded a shift. It was a pivot from the assured protective order of the divine to an era of chaos and dread. In Norse lore, the number 13 had never been imbued with such malign power before, but on that enchanted night, Loki's very presence transmuted it into a harbinger of misfortune. With sly words and subtle gestures, he sowed seeds of discord among the deities, creating divisions between friends and juxtaposing trust with betrayal. As the feast unfolded, omens began to appear. Drinks spilled mysteriously, shadows seemed to twist and writhe against the walls of the grand hall, and an unholy chill ran through the gathered gods. Loki had brought with him an ancient curse, one that wove the unpredictable nature of the trickster into the fabric of that unlucky number. It wasn't simply a matter of numerical coincidence that this 13th guest symbolized the ultimate violation of order and decorum. His actions that night, as whispered among bards for generations, were said to have incited a calamity that could be traced throughout the ages. In retaliation, the gods themselves cursed the day upon which such treachery occurred. Forever Friday, a day already somber with its association to sacrifice and death, was linked with the unbidden misfortune of the number 13. Thus, in the minds of many mortals, the echoes of that disrupted feast continued to reverberate, underscoring the inherent superstition that plagues every Friday the 13th. Centuries later, in the waning days of medieval Europe, the ominous aura surrounding Friday the 13th would find a fertile backdrop for new sorrow. The Knights Templar, a formidable order of warrior monks charged with protecting the Holy Land, had long been both revered and feared. Their influence was vast, their secrets limitless. Rumors abounded that they possessed relics and knowledge that bridged the divide between the sacred and the profane. A true embodiment of the mystic and the martial intertwined. On a cool autumn morning, under a sky that promised neither sun nor mercy, a sinister decree was issued by the French monarchy. The date, steeped in eerie coincidence, was Friday the 13th, a day that had already acquired a sinister reputation. In one fell swoop, the Templar strongholds were besieged. Soldiers in dark, ruthless uniforms descended upon the knights, arresting them without warning. What began as an insidious whisper of treachery quickly escalated into a full-scale purge. The once proud defenders of a sacred order were dragged from their cloisters, their cries echoing in the cold stone corridors of ancient castles. Legends insist that during these grim hours, one relic in particular, a small, intricately carved talisman that had been in the possession of the Templars for generations, emanated a palpable darkness. This relic, rumored to have absorbed the very essence of betrayal from the Last Supper and the chaos of Loki's dinner, was fated to ensure that the curse of the 13th would long outlast those who had wielded it. As the Templars were condemned to torture and execution, the relic vanished from sight, slipping into the shadowed embrace of history. Some say it was spirited away by a sympathetic knight. Others believe it was lost forever in the labyrinth of secret vaults beneath a ruined abbey. In the ensuing years, the arrest and subsequent martyrdom of the Templars became the stuff of whispered legend and ghostly warning. The cruel irony of their fate, sealed on a Friday the 13th, reinforced a pervasive notion among the people that certain dates bore the weight of otherworldly malice and carried the spectral residue of ancient sins. The memory of that day was etched into the collective psyche, a grim reminder that betrayal, once sown, could bear bitter fruit in the realm of destiny. Thus, the curse of the Templars, intertwined with the legacy of Judas and Loki, endured in the lore of superstition, making every Friday the 13th a day cursed by the echoes of blood and betrayal. The tapestry of history is not woven of isolated threads, but of interlaced destinies stretching across time and space. Unbeknownst to most, the cursed legacy of that fateful 13th guest seeped into the lives of unsuspecting descendants. A hidden inheritance passed down through cryptic family lore and forgotten manuscripts. This inheritance was not marked by wealth or fame, but by a relentless burden. The spectral shadow of misfortune that appeared whenever the fated number and day aligned. In a quiet corner of modern Europe, in a town where ancient cobblestone streets whispered secrets of the past, lived a young historian named Elias. Born into a family whose lineage boasted links to medieval knights and esoteric scholars, Elias had always sensed a subtle undercurrent of dread on certain days. His grandmother's tales, half myth, half memory, spoke of an heirloom locked away in the family's ancestral manor. A relic of obscure origins that glowed faintly at the stroke of midnight on Friday the 13th. For as long as anyone could remember, that relic was said to offer glimpses into the past and warnings of the future, a dangerous beacon drawing forth the restless echoes of history. Elias's obsession with the origins of Friday the 13th grew as he pored over ancient texts, deciphered cryptic passages, and followed the faded script of long-forgotten manuscripts that chronicled events from the Last Supper to the fall of the Templars. He came across scattered references linking the curse to a singular, indelible moment when fate aligned with treachery. Not merely a numerical coincidence, but an active malediction laid upon the world. His research took him into the forgotten vaults of monasteries and the shadowed corridors of ruined castles. Each location a repository of memories too grim to forget. With every dusty page turned, Elias felt the growing weight of ancestral guilt and dread, a premonition that someday the curse would demand full recompense. One chilly November evening, as the wind howled like a wolf in the barren moors, Elias unearthed a leather-bound journal tucked away in a hidden compartment of an ancient desk. Its pages, yellow with age, chronicled the final days of a Templar knight named Sir Godfrey. A man who had witnessed the horrors of that fateful Friday the 13th and had sworn to protect the cursed relic at all costs. Sir Godfrey's words were wrought with terror and regret as he spoke of spectral figures and ghostly apparitions that haunted the corridors of the abbey. He urged future generations to guard the relic lest its insidious power overwhelm them. It was in that journal that Elias discovered the chilling realization that the curse was no abstract superstition, but a tangible force that had shaped the destinies of entire bloodlines. Haunted by this discovery and the relentless passage of fate, Elias felt compelled to confront the truth of his family's dark inheritance. The journal hinted that every generation faced a trial on Friday the 13th, a reckoning that could either break the cycle of cursed misfortune or perpetuate it for eternity. With trepidation and determination intermingled in his heart, he resolved to uncover the relic's hidden resting place and perhaps find a way to lift the ancient curse that had dogged his forebears for centuries. When the calendar finally marked another Friday the 13th, Elias felt the ominous pull of destiny like never before. The relic, according to the journal's final cryptic passages, lay hidden beneath the crumbling stone floors of an abandoned monastery high in the misty hills. Steeling himself against the biting cold and the relentless creeping fog, he set out into the night, unaware that he was treading the same cursed path once walked by knights and traders. Every step was weighed with centuries of sorrow, and every breath carried whispers of ages past. The ancient monastery, long succumbed to desolation, rose up before him like a spectral beast from the mists. Ivy clung to its weathered walls, and shattered stained-glass windows fashioned eerie mosaics in the pale moonlight. Elias's candle flickered as he navigated the labyrinthine corridors, following the cryptic directions from Sir Godfrey's journal. The silence was profound and unsettling. A silence that seemed to pulse with memories of unspoken grief and lingering malevolence. In that oppressive quiet, the tortured echoes of the past whispered their lament, urging him ever forward. Deep within the bowels of the monastery, in a chamber almost swallowed by darkness, Elias discovered a weathered stone sarcophagus decorated with faded carvings of angels and serpents. At its center rested a small chest, its iron-bound surface embossed with a single symbol. The number 13 intertwined with a fragment of a cross and a serpent motif, a design that resonated profoundly with every legend he had studied. With trembling hands he pried the chest open. Inside lay the relic, a brooch of mysterious design, its metal shimmering strangely as if imbued with an inner light. In that instant the temperature plummeted, and the chamber filled with a spectral glow. As Elias reached out, a voice reverberated through the stone walls. A mournful, otherworldly lament that defied the boundaries of time. The voice spoke in a language lost to humankind, yet its meaning seemed achingly clear. The curse demanded sacrifice, remembrance, and ultimately redemption. In the flickering light of his candle, spectral images materialized before him. He saw the ghostly outline of a Templar knight in battered armor, his sorrowful eyes pleading for absolution. Soon after, wraiths formed figures from that fateful Last Supper and even the mischievous, inscrutable shape of Loki, whose grin hinted at both mirth and malice. The apparitions circled Elias, their ethereal forms undulating as if caught in a spectral dance. The air itself seemed to tremble with both accusation and promise. Elias felt within him an overwhelming surge of connection, a bridge between ancient betrayal and his own modern plight. A relentless voice echoed, "Do you not see the cycle of treachery? Of cursed legacy? It is your destiny as it was theirs to either yield or break the chain." For moments that stretched like an eternity, Elias found himself locked in a silent conversation with the ghosts of his bloodline. Each spectral figure was a living reminder of sins long past. In that profound moment of reckoning, he realized that the relic was not merely an object, but a repository of ancestral sorrow and a beacon for those doomed to walk in the shadow of betrayal. With newfound determination, Elias clutched the relic to his chest and uttered words of defiance and sorrow, promising to honor the memory of his ancestors without succumbing to the curse. The spectral vision seemed to pause, as if the ancient forces recognized his resolve. Yet the very night around him was suffused with an uneasy calm, a fragile truce between the forces of past misfortune and a hopeful future. The relic's glow gradually subsided, leaving Elias alone among the ruins forever changed by the encounter. He knew that the cursed legacy was not easily banished. It would forever be entwined with the destiny of those who bore witness to its dark history. A single, silent vow echoed through him. He would spend his life unraveling the secrets of the aged curse so that others might one day break free from its unyielding grip. The tale of Friday the 13th is one that endures across the ages, a bitter symphony composed of betrayal, divine mischief, and mortal suffering. From the intimate, candlelit whispers of the Last Supper to the icy, raucous feasts of gods in Valhalla, and from the blood-drenched corridors of medieval Europe to the modern, haunted chambers of an ancient monastery. The legacy of that accursed day has been woven into the fabric of history. Each retelling, whether shrouded in the mists of early Christianity, echoing in the frosty realms of the Norse, or etched in the cries of fallen Templars, testifies to the terrible power of betrayal and the unyielding nature of cursed fate. For those who study these legends, caution is the only recompense. The cursed inheritance is a reminder that some destinies are inescapable. A cycle of sorrow and misfortune that can only be broken by courage, understanding, and the willingness to confront the darkest corners of one's own legacy. Elias, the modern historian burdened by his ancestral connection to the curse, became a living testament to both the terror and the hope encapsulated on that ominous date. His journey, wrought with fear and determination, ached with the knowledge that every Friday the 13th somewhere in the world, dark forces stirred in remembrance of that ancient betrayal, drawing new souls into the ceaseless dance of fate. Yet amid the gloom, there remains the possibility of redemption. As long as those who walk this earth have the strength to question fate and challenge the legacies imposed upon them, there is hope that the cycle may one day be broken. Each whispered legend, each ghostly apparition, and each mysterious relic serves as both a warning and an invitation to delve deeper into the murky past, perhaps transforming its sorrow into something new. A future where the curse no longer strikes fear into the hearts of the innocent. The story of the 13th hour is, in the end, not merely one of terror but also a call to confront the chaos that binds us, and to rewrite our destiny in the face of forces older and more powerful than ourselves. And so, as twilight gives way to the cold embrace of night on yet another Friday the 13th, one cannot help but wonder if the echoes of that ancient feast have been fully silenced. In the rustling of autumn leaves, in the creaking of old wood, and in the desperate prayers of those who dare to challenge the curse, the legacy endures. A grim reminder that history is not dead, but a living specter waiting, ever patient, for its next chapter to unfold. The origins of Friday the 13th, built upon layers of real lore and myth, continue to fascinate, terrify, and inspire. Whether one views the cursed day as the tragic culmination of an ancient betrayal at the Last Supper, the audacious mischief of a Norse trickster sowing discord among the gods, or the brutal downfall of a once sacred order like the Knights Templar, the lore reminds us of the power of narrative to shape our perceptions of fate and fortune. In each retelling, the number 13 and the day of Friday carry with them not just superstition, but a rich tapestry of human longing, regret, and the eternal struggle against destiny. Elias's journey, though born of scholarly obsession, echoes the timeless quest for truth, a yearning to understand how the sins of our ancestors can bind us and how confronting them might free us. His trial in the haunted ruins of an ancient abbey under the monastery is a modern myth itself, a potent reminder that beneath the surface of modern life the echoes of history, bathed in blood, sorrow, and hope, still resonate. And for every soul that trembles at the approach of Friday the 13th, there is a lesson to be found in these legends. Even in the face of ancient curses, the human spirit can strive for redemption, shining a light into the arena of darkness. As scholars and storytellers continue to explore the interplay between myth and history, the dark allure of Friday the 13th remains a fertile ground for introspection and creativity. Its origins are a mosaic of disparate traditions, a confluence of biblical betrayal, divine trickery, and medieval collapse. And in understanding these origins we gain insight into the many ways that fear, superstition, and the desire to explain the inexplicable have shaped our cultural psyche. In the end, every narrative carries with it the weight of its origins, and the story of Friday the 13th is a reminder that beneath the veneer of everyday life, there exist secrets so ancient and powerful that even the bravest of hearts must tremble at their invocation. It is an invitation to peer once more into the mists of time and confront the specters that dwell therein. Not merely to be frightened, but to learn, to grow, and to ultimately overcome the legacy of the cursed 13th.